Okay, listen, if you're running a business or thinking about starting one, there's something really simple that you need to know. There are only four ways to make money as a company. So forget all the noise and the hacks and the overnight success that you've heard and listen to these next 4 points and I'll show you exactly how to make money in 2025. Okay, so to explain how we're making money, we're going to take you into a slide deck today. So here we go. And I basically just want to start by saying if you're not making money, it's your fault and you need to understand how to make money as a business, because otherwise you'll just be putting a lot of effort into doing things that will not result in you generating income. So what I'm basically talking about today, every single company in the world uses. So everything from Apple to your local gardening company will use a combination of these four methods in order to bring in money. So what I'm saying is, and this is a very big promise, but it very much could be the most important video you watch about your business. Right, let's start with the least sexy methods out of the four, which is cold outbound. Cold outbound basically means you're reaching out to people who don't know who you are and you're trying to sell to them. So the ways that you do this, generally speaking, are email, DM, phone calls, but obviously again you can do this sort of stuff in person, so walking into a store if your business is more face to face. And most people hate this method the most, and that's because they spam, they copy paste, they use ChatGPT in the wrong way, which means that they're just doing it wrong and it comes across as generic and desperate to their prospects. So what you need to do is have a plan when you're going into this. Because you're directly contacting someone, you can make it heavily personalized so the message looks like it's speaking directly to them, because it is. So to do this, you need to research the person you're speaking to and the company you're targeting. And you need to show why the offer you have solves a problem that that person faces. And when you do that, and then they can resonate with your message, that's when you can start to move through to the next stage. So I've written sequence here, and what sequence means is that one message often will never close a deal. It'll be very rare that you'll send an email and they'll be like, yep, give me your bank details, let's go. Unless you've got a really, really good offer, then if that's the case, then fantastic, great for you. But often you'll need to have follow-ups and you'll need to keep on applying pressure and pushing them down your sales funnel in order to close the deal. So one of the other benefits is that you can test what you're doing well. So then when you're testing, you can then see, oh, well, if I use this variation of said email or this opening line on a cold call, I'm more likely to get better results. But the only way testing really works is when you track what works and what doesn't, because then you're continuously improving. So you're not going to be pumping out the same stuff you are on day one when you're at day 100. It's going to be better and it's going to be more personalized and it's ultimately going to win you more business, which is why quality heavily wins over quantity here. So yeah, you can send out 1,000 emails, but if they're all going into people's spam inboxes and they're all generic, then is that worth it in the end? Whereas if you do 100 really personal emails to people that are genuinely legitimate potential customers and they're highly personalized so that you're solving their problems and they really believe in what you do, then that's going to get you more deals than pumping out 10,000 emails that are generic copy and paste ChatGPT jobs. But while we do say quality over quantity, you need to make sure that you are doing enough. Because if you're not doing enough, you just won't see results whatsoever. So track your metrics, know how many you're sending out, and if it's not working, do some more, because that is ultimately the bottom line, because this is the easiest way to go from zero to nothing. You've just got to have the time and the patience and the creativity to execute it properly. So what I have got here as well is an example of what an initial email looks like. So this is just a little template that you can use, but where it says personalization, you've really got to try and tie something in, and then you can kind of sub in what your business does, and then the problem you're solving, so the offer that you're getting in there. And then, you need to make sure you just have a nice little call to action at the end and keep it nice and casual. If people are interested in seeing more templates or examples of how to write these emails or follow-ups, just let me know in the comments and I can sort of make some more stuff for you guys to use. So warm outbound. So this is the follow-up from cold outbound. So generally speaking, in most cases, you won't be able to start with warm outbound. You'll have to start with cold outbound if outbound's the route you're going down. And you can basically do it when people know who you are. So if you have had some business and you've done some really good work for someone, then they will put the word out for you and you've got your testimonials. So when you're approaching people or they're referring people to you, they already know who you are, what you do, and how well you do it. So these are often a lot easier to approach and they're easier to close because you've already got an existing trust there. So referrals is probably the easiest way to kind of bring business in when you've already got working client base that are happy with the work you're doing. And you basically want to reward the referrer and the referee. So think of how much you would have spent in time or advertising spend in order to bring on a customer, and then use that cost to give it back. So if you're giving a service or something to people, then you can give them money off the next time or money off their starting one, depending if they've referred someone or they've been referred. And what this does, it encourages people to refer because they know they'll get something out of it. And that makes your job a hell of a lot easier because it's not just buy my thing. It's, if you give someone to me, then you'll get your next month for free. So this is a fantastic way to bring people in. And then your followers. So often if you have social media or like maybe a LinkedIn profile for your company or a mailing list, for example, you've got people that trust you. And if they trust you, it means that you can ask them whether they need your services. But I've put here, don't abuse it, because no one wants to kind of have someone that's constantly pestering them to buy something off them, because ultimately that will just lead to sort of like a resentment and they won't be interested anymore. So you've got to be quite smart about how you ask your followers and make sure that it's not overdoing anything which would then put them off and then make further business down the line not possible. But some example of ways of doing this, let's say you've got like a personal training business, you can literally just go through your Instagram following list. You don't even need a business at this point. And you can just send a message to everyone saying like, hi, I've started a business and I do personal training. Are you interested in a few sessions? And that's all it takes, because you've got people that know you, and a lot of people, especially when you're starting out, are going to be really supportive of like, oh yeah, we want to help you get going. But ultimately, there isn't really that much difference between cold and warm outbound when it comes to the personalization and creating a great offer for the prospect that you're trying to sell. So what you want to do here is just make sure that you're still solving a problem for the people you're approaching, but the difference is they already know you and they may know that you can already solve this problem. Right, so now we're going to talk about the most fun of the four, in my opinion, my favorite, which is advertising. So advertising, in this context, we're going to primarily talk about social media. So when I talk about adverts, for example, you might think of TV or billboards or kind of stuff like that. And the reality of that costs quite a lot of money. And if you're starting out and you don't have that sort of budget to play with, then social media is the best place to kind of start advertising. But it's not one of those things that discriminates against small or big companies. So you'll see the biggest companies in the world advertising on social media, and then you'll have sort of small local businesses advertising on social media, and both of which will be able to see similar results for the scale of what they're putting in. So the first thing about advertising on social media particularly is you've really got to nail your offer. So you've got to know exactly what you're selling and make it a really attractive thing to buy for your prospective customers, because you're competing for attention when you're on social media, which means that if it's not something that's interesting to someone scrolling through, then they're just going to scroll past it and it's gone, and your opportunity to sell is gone. So a lot of companies do think, oh, well, if we spend X amount on ads, then we'll get X back. And it doesn't work like that. So you can have a really, really bad offer, and that means that you just won't convert your ads, because ads don't make things better. They amplify what you've already got. So I've seen it time and time again with clients I've worked with, that it's just they're running ads and they're just not delivering how they're expecting, and all it takes is a bit of time to refine how they're phrasing what it is that they're selling, and then really working on a funnel in order to get them from seeing the ad to converting it as a sale or a sign up for a lead gen or whatever the purpose of your ads are. So the first thing to do here is find your platform. So you've got some different ways of advertising, and each platform has an audience which is behaving differently. So Facebook and Instagram are two of the kind of the biggest social medias, and the ads there are known to do really well. And I'm kind of going to go into detail on all of the platforms that I've named here. And then TikTok is kind of that short form, punchier, younger platform. And then YouTube is kind of a longer form, more mature platform. So the next thing is target. Who's your audience? You've got to know who they are. The beauty of social media means that you can put exactly what you have in front of the people that you want to see it. So if you know that your target audience is kind of middle class people from like southwest London, you can target exactly that in the demographics that you want to target. Or if you know that your audience is under 25s that are just starting work and or they're at university or whatever, you can target that. You can target how you want. So you need to understand who you're selling to in order to get the most value out of how you're selling. And then the next thing is testing. So you've got to work out what works and what doesn't. And to do that, you need to put a portion of your budget aside to trying new things. And then when you've got something that does work, you've just got to double down on it. And then the scaling. So the beauty of social media is that I can just put more money in, and if the ads are good, more people will see them and more people will buy. So once you've got a mechanism that works, you can go all in and grow this from the smallest company in the world with no revenue at all to a multi-million pound enterprise. So yeah, it's fantastic for that. Right, so this brings me on to Meta ads. So Meta is still the king of paid social. So if you're looking for lead generation, you're looking for sales, it's often the best place to start, especially if you kind of know nothing and have no experience of ads going into this. And the Meta ad manager as well is really, really straightforward and simple to use and set up. So if this is something you're interested in learning a bit more about, I can kind of go in and do a tutorial in Meta Ads Manager to show you how to set up and run ads. But yeah, so the beauty of this is that you can work with any size budget. So like I said before, all you need to do is put £10 in and you can see £50 back. It's really that easy. But it's the same that if you put £10,000 in, you can sort of see the £50,000 back. So you're not competing for budget where you are maybe on television ad space or billboard ad space and getting kind of physical real world ads. But what you're doing now is competing for attention, which means that you can have really good ads on lower budget and you will be shown above these multi-million-pound companies because your ads just work better. So in order to make them work better, you need to know your audience, and to do that you need to understand the data that it gives you back. Not all ads are equal, and you will see that when you start running ads for yourself. And if you're running a few side by sides, you'll see some are cheaper and they perform better and they convert better. And you need to understand what are the things that are converting well, and what are your audience interacting with the most. Because what you may find is that the audience you thought you were selling to are not the ones that are buying your product, and then you need to cater your offer to the people that actually are. And then the next thing is, once you find your winners, you need to double down. So if you've got something that works, really go all in, and that's when you can see the best results. So now I'm going to talk about TikTok ads. So TikTok is still a young platform. There are a lot of companies that don't understand it properly or how to use it and get the most out of it, which means for you as a small company, it's a huge opportunity to win. TikTok is a platform where you really are competing for people's attention because you're just scrolling through a feed. So that means authenticity and relevance are more important than anything else. And the best way to do this on TikTok is to make your ads not look like their ads. So people need to be watching your videos and engaging with them as if it's actually a video, so it's on a trend or something that people are watching. And you've got to engage with your audience on TikTok in the way that they use the app. So one of the real fantastic ways of doing this is user-generated content. So it's finding people who kind of have your audience, like an influencer in that space, and then getting them to interact with your product. And if it's a great product or service, then they'll often be more than happy to kind of help do this, and you'll be able to work out some sort of arrangement. But what that does is it kind of gives directed advertising to the people you want to get it to, without having to scale through the ads, because if it goes viral from their video, you've kind of got the agreement for the video, not for 2 million people seeing it. So whereas you will get charged for the scale on Meta, on TikTok you won't, which is one of the real benefits of it, because it means that there's ability for you to blow up overnight and get loads of eyes on, just like that, and you won't be paying for being on people's feeds. And the final one we're just going to talk about now is YouTube ads. So YouTube ads are, again, different because of what people go to YouTube for. So if people are going to YouTube, generally they're going for information. So like, I'm hoping that if you're watching this video, you're not going here for just a light scroll or whatever. You're kind of looking, okay, how can we make money as a business? And when you have people who have intent, then a well-positioned ad to the right person can basically print money, because they're kind of people that are ready to learn and do more within a certain area, whatever that is, which means that they're more primed to be a paid customer, as they're often really engaged. And one of the other things alongside this is that you're able to sell those higher ticket items. So whether that's kind of sort of bigger courses or larger scale products that cost more money, because people are often engaged to a point where they're kind of happy to pay that premium because they're ready for the information. Whereas if you're scrolling on TikTok and you see something for £8,000, you might think, oh no, that's far too expensive, I'm not even going to look at that. But you might see a holiday package on YouTube when you're looking at holidays in South America, and you might go, you know what, that's a great price. And then you'll pull the trigger and then do that because you're hitting an engaged audience in the right area. And again, influencer marketing is another really useful tool here. So if you have someone that has the audience you want, then you can get them to talk about your product or service for you. And again, that's a fantastic way to win business from an engaged audience. So just the last thing I'm going to briefly touch on is budgeting your ads. So what I have done with my experience in ads is use an 80-20 rule. So what that means is 80% of the ad budget that you've got for your campaign, that goes on what you know works. So if you have a bunch of tested, tried and converted ads, great, 80% of the budget goes there, but 20% goes on testing new things. So what you do is create a separate kind of lot of ads, and those are the ones that you're trying to do things different and find the improvement. So you don't really care if all of them stink in this 20%, but you're kind of seeing because you could get one that does really well. And if it does really well and hits the metrics that you set for it to hit, then that's when you move it into the 80%, because then what that means is that your 80% are always the best ads, and the ones that aren't performing well, they can then drop back down into the testing to see if that works. And then the final tip I'm going to leave you with is spread it evenly. Again, we've worked with people that have dumped a load of money in 3 days on ads, and then they're like, why isn't it working? When in reality, the best way to get the most out of ads is to kind of spread it evenly over a longer period of time for your campaign. So then you can give it the best chance of working, because if you just run ads for 2 days, the algorithm isn't going to know what's the best way to do it. But if you give the algorithm time in order to understand your audience and find the right people to put it in front of, then that is when you're really going to benefit from ads. So if you have £100 budget, don't spend it on a weekend. Spread it out over a week or two in order to kind of maximize that budget and give it the best chance of working. So the last of the 4 points that we're going to talk about is probably in today's day and age what can be considered the holy grail, which is free content. So this is an absolutely fantastic way in order for you to kind of get business in. And the crux of it isn't really trying to sell to anyone, but it's building that trust and authority in the space that you want to be in. So free content, another way of putting this, so it's not just I'm as an individual putting stuff out, but it's companies as well. So in social media respects, it's referred to as organic social, and it's basically you're just trying to engage with and kind of give to your audience. And one of the reasons why it's so good is because you're no longer chasing customers, but you give so much that they end up chasing you. So you can use all the channels we've talked about before for this. So if you have a mailing list, if you have social media, and you can just kind of give out free bits of advice, content, and all that sort of stuff, and you're not asking for anything back. And I think the importance here is not asking. So I'm not sitting down here and saying, look, I want you to come to me and I can do a load of marketing work for you, because you'll get bored of that. That's not something you want to see. But if I show you how to market and you can then build a business, and the way I've explained things works for you, you might go, you know what, I think that's a real great person to help me work with my business. And then you'll come to me, as opposed to me sort of ringing you up and saying, do you want to buy marketing services? And you're like, no, I can't do it myself. And yeah, it's a tool for bringing people in. It's kind of pulling people in, but at the same time, particularly on social media, organic content is the fuel for your ads. So if you don't have a good organic social strategy, your ads aren't going to do well. And you may be like, oh, but my offer is really good. But if you don't have a brand that people are interacting with, your ads will just not get the same attention due to the algorithm, because it rewards having a good organic strategy as well as a paid strategy. So let's tie everything together now. So every single business makes money through a mixture of the 4 ways I've just explained. So cold outbound, often fantastic for getting your first cash. Warm outbound leverages that network you've got. Advertising scales what you have that works. And then free content builds that long-term authority. So I'm not saying you need to reinvent the wheel here. You just need to find out what the right method is to apply at the right time. And when you do that and you use a combination of these together, you will absolutely make money. And if you don't, please come to me, shout in the comments. Because I don't believe it's possible to do all of these well and then not make money as a business. So yeah, the final tips I'm going to leave you with is just keep it simple. You don't need to overcomplicate your strategy. Just find the lever that will work for you at the time that's right, and just pull it hard. So don't half do one or half do all of them and then be like, why am I not bringing anything in? Find what you think is the best one for you at the time, given what your business is, and just go all in on it. And then be consistent. This isn't a quick fix. I'm not telling you about a hack or how to go from zero to £10,000 overnight. This is something that you really have to take time and understand and master in order to make money. But if you do, this really could change your life. All right, so there you have it. I've given you the kind of the 4 doors you need to walk through in order to make money. So what I'm going to ask from you is let me know which one you're using. Drop it below in the comments, and see how you progress. And yeah, I want to hear. And again, if you're interested in hearing more about anything I mentioned, please let me know, and I can kind of make a video going into more detail on it. And yeah, if you're here to stick around, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, like it. If you didn't like it, let me know in the comments. Let me know what I can change. Let me know what you want to hear. And yeah, see you next time.